The 772nd edition of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code MMASGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. And we're also brought to you by Edge Boost. Earn up to $750 per month on your sports gambling transactions. Just go to edgeboost.bet and use promo code SGPN. And finally, we're brought to you by Rhythm, the leader in data-driven picks and props. Rhythm is giving away a $250 future and throwing a March Madness party. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/party for all the details.
Howdy-ho, Degenerinos. Welcome to episode 772 of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, dedicated to Cracky the Cocaine Jinx, who just announced in our Discord that he is back. So I'm assuming Cracky retired, quote-unquote, from MMA gambling, but MMA gambling retirements are about as permanent and as frequent as MMA retirements in the cage. So welcome back, Cracky. Thank you for coming to the show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, one of your hosts. What do I go by currently? High IQ Jeff Fox, I think I'm going by. That is debatable, though. Thanks for coming to the show. As you can see by the title, we're in full swing with our regional events. Cage Wars 183 is happening. We're actually caught up to the week that is happening. Actually, they caught up to us. We were well ahead. We've already got you 3 events for this coming week. That's how busy the regional scene is. We got 3 more big ones coming up. Cage Wars, Octagon, KSW. So 3 of the biggest. So today we're going to Rome to cover the event. Not really. Well, we can pretend we're going to Rome. Those that are not watching YouTube, we could be in Rome and you wouldn't know. I have someone riding shotgun. Most people on YouTube know that already. His name is Daniel Gumby. His nickname does not change. He's always Gumby. Sometimes it's Danny V, depending on who you talk to, but around these parts, he's Gumby Reeland. Tell us about Cage Wars 183. It looks pretty good by my novice eyes.
It's not a bad card. They're rolling out all of their Italian talent, which sometimes leads to good matchmaking, sometimes leads to not such good matchmaking. We don't have lines for this one yet, so I'm going to predict that some of these are pretty wide lines. But there's also a couple of guys who I really love on the prelims, guys who might possibly show up here as underdogs. So you're going to want to tune in to the end when we hit you with the lightning round, because there might be a couple of decent ones there.
We got some fun Italian names to say. Not as fun as KSW coming up. That's going to be a difficult event for me.
Don't you usually just say the Polish names with Italian accents, though? Isn't that how you usually do it?
Everything with an Italian accent makes it sound proper. You don't usually see title fights. We're getting 2 title fights. You don't usually see title fights when Cage Wars is in Italy and in places like that. So that's why I thought, hey, maybe this is a bit better than their typical regional events that they run.
Yeah, it's still a good one. I wouldn't say it's like much better than like the ones you get in Manchester or anything like that. But it's a good one. Yeah, double title fight.
Yeah, but we don't care. But I always bring up how strong a card is. We don't care. We're gonna watch it. We watch anything. We watch any kind of slop, and we bet on it. So that's what the show's all about, and that's what you people are all about. You are as bad as we are with these things. So Cage Wars 183. We will jump into it real soon. We're not going to talk about last night's very exciting UFC fight night. Oh boy, can you believe what that happened last night, Gumby? Insane, right?
I just love that we got down to a 10-fight Apex card. That's that's always a pleasure.
But the problem is I'd already done all the work for the 12 fights. We'd already done the podcast. I'd already done all my writing. So it would have been nice if they dropped out earlier, so I would have less work to do. But hey, that's just me. That's just lazy old me. All right, before we dive into Cage Wars 183, hopefully their card stays intact. I need to remind you, it's time to gear up for March. It's actually March as we speak. We have Merch Madness going on right now. Promo code MADNESS for 20% off in the SGPN store. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. Get in now before the promo code is done. Get those cool new SGPN Degen hats that we have. Lots of MMA Gambling Podcast gear. So sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. Madness is your code. Now, Cage Wars 183, as I mentioned, is happening. I didn't tell you where it's happening. Rome, Italy. Perhaps you've heard of the city. March the 8th, which is this coming Saturday, 12 noon Eastern start time. In the Pellicone, I guess. I got to say it like I'm Italian, is where it is happening. If you want to go check out the action, 17 bouts. Gumby has agreed to do about a third of them. But he'll give you some bonus picks, right? of course.
Right. Yeah, I got a couple.
Lightning round. All right. We're starting off with a Greek fighter, actually. Konstantinos Ntelis versus Michael Pagani. You can tell if they're Italian by the way I say it. Pagani. 3 5-minute rounds, 155. And as we mentioned, this is no odds for this, but we do have odds already for Octagon and for KSW, which is nice. But Gumby will do his best to guesstimate these for you. Pagani's sniper. Not the sniper, just sniper. 7-1 with 1 no contest. 5 knockouts, never been finished in a fight. 1-1 in Cage Warriors. He did lose his last fight. He used to fight at 170. Ntelis is the gambler. Hey, our type of guy. 9-3, 2 knockouts, 5 submissions. He's been submitted once. 1-1 in Cage Warriors as well. 3-2 over his last 5. Won his last fight via TKO. Our regional champ. Used to fight at 170. 2-0 as a pro grappler. 3 years younger than Pagani.
So I think you're going to see Pagani here at like, negative 225, maybe negative 250. You'll probably get like a plus 200 return on Ntelis. And I'm going to go underdog straight out the gate here. I like Konstantino Ntelis, especially if we can get him, 2-1 or close to 2-1. And the main reason is like Pagani is probably going to be the favorite because first of all, hometown talent. Second of all, probably the more exciting of the two fighters. He's like, exciting from range. He's a guy who likes to, strike and excite the fans and have that kind of fight. But he doesn't necessarily look all that good when he's being backed up. When somebody can pressure him and somebody can force him to move backwards, he looks a little worried. His arms flail a little bit. His defense falls apart a touch. And I think all of those things are trouble here against Ntelis because while Ntelis maybe is not the rangy boxer that Pagani is, he is a pretty damn good wrestler. His only loss in his last 4 fights was to that Jan Quahagens, who's like one of my favorite journeymen of all time, but like Jan Quahagens. And like mostly in that fight, it was him dominating Q with the grappling before eventually like winding up giving up a position and getting choked. So like he had really good wrestling against a guy who I think of as typically a very good grappler. And Pagani, like if you watch his former fights, like he hasn't faced a ton of takedowns, which I think could play into Ntelis' favor. And then also when somebody backs him up, like I said before, a lot of times he'll get all the way to the cage and kind of just get held there. Like I'm thinking of his fight with James Power. James Power, again, not a guy necessarily who I think of as being like a dominant wrestler or, like a beast in the clinch or anything like that. But he held Pagani up against the cage for like long stretches of time. And for me, if you give Ntelis that much time to work up against the cage, I think he's going to find a double, or I think he's going to find a trip, or I think he's going to catch, a single and run the pipe. And like, I think Ntelis can do all of those things against Pagani. It's just really important to him to make sure that he's on his horse moving forward the whole time, which like, based on his wrestling style, he kind of does anyway. So I like Ntelis here to move forward, back Pagani up, hopefully hit some takedowns and grind this one out.
All right. Pagani is not Pagani. I'm sorry. Ntelis is the pick. I probably made a Nutella joke about him originally, right? We have spoke of him before, I think. And I think
I have no idea if you have or not, but it does seem to fit your brand, if that helps.
It does. Nutella is my brand. Nutella, hit me up. You can sponsor me personally. All right, we are moving to 145. Guess where this fighter is from, Gumby? Giuseppe Mastrogiacomo. Guess.
He's from Italy. Yeah.
Yes, because of the way I said it.
We've also talked about him multiple times.
We have,
too.
I know. Oh, I remember. I remember the multi-syllable name here. He's fighting Aiden Lee. We've talked about Aiden Lee before as well. He is from Britain or England. Sorry, England. Sometimes they're UK flags. Sometimes Great Britain. Sometimes England. His is England. Let's tell you about Lee. He's 12-9, 2 knockouts, 8 submissions. He's been knocked out twice, submitted twice. 6-4 in Cage Warriors, 1-3 over his last 4, 3-5 over his last 8. Got submitted in his last fight, 3-3 in Bellator. His missed weight before at 145. He's fought at 155 and 170. 2015 pro MMA debut, 3 inches height over at Mastrogiacomo. He's 6-0. Mastrogiacomo. 2 knockouts, 2 submissions, 3-0 in Cage Warriors. Used to fight at 155, 7 years younger than Lee. I think he's going to be 23 or something. He's a young buck.
Yeah, and I think he's one of those people that Cage Warriors is really counting on to star on some of these Italian cards in the future. Yeah. So, like, with that being the case, you got to imagine big favorite here, like negative 250, negative 275, like a plus 225 return on Aiden Lee. And it might balloon up higher. This is one of those lines that if you're you're down with Mastrogiacomo as I am, you're going to want to make sure you get it as soon as possible because that number is going to get out of control. And I'm going to take Mastrogiacomo, as I just said. The bottom line is I just think he works too well from range. I think he works too well in his striking. Particularly, the best thing that he does is he just doesn't ever throw one punch. Like if he lands on you, there's 2 or 3 more on the way. Like he's a 3, 4, 5 punch combo, or he works knees and kicks in there too. He's a 3, 4, 5 strike combo kind of guy every single time he throws, and it's overwhelming for people when they face that kind of striking because like then when he starts to engage, they don't even want to counter because they know his second and third and fourth shot are there to tag him too. So he's kind of an overwhelming fighter in that way. Really, the only way I could think to sort of nullify what he does is like if he faces a big wrestler, I'm interested to see whether he'll be able to work off the cage. The problem here is with Aiden Lee, really good grappler in terms of his jiu-jitsu and in terms of what he does on the mat that way. I just don't necessarily trust any of his wrestling. Like I think his wrestling is kind of subpar, especially in comparison to his jiu-jitsu. And then Mastrogiacomo, like in the couple of instances I have seen him defend a takedown, he does do all the right fundamental things. He digs for the underhooks. He looks for ways to circle out. He looks to ways to elbow out. And he's not just like striking blindly, hoping to get out of there and that he deters somebody. Instead, he's doing all the little things right. So I think being that Aiden Lee is not particularly a strong wrestler in the first place, then you add Mastrogiacomo's ability to, sort of strike out of those situations and work his way out of those situations. I think he's going to overwhelm him on the feet. So give me Mastrogiacomo, probably a guy who's going to be a parlay piece as long as you get him right when he opens.
What kind of future do you think he has? He's young. He's undefeated. Do you think he's possible UFC or not?
I mean, he's possible. I just think it's so hard to tell at this stage, being that, first of all, we've seen a couple of Italian prospects sort of fizzle out by just like not having the wrestling background that we've kind of wanted them to. And in this case, like it's the only thing I haven't seen proven on him, which is why I think they're bringing him Aiden Lee. Aiden Lee is like probably a better wrestler than a lot of the guys he's faced, but like still maybe not a superlative wrestler. So like they're giving him somebody with a little bit of grappling, hoping that I think he develops that part as he goes. But I think if he can round out his game, the striking plays at like a borderline UFC level, but like, hard to say at this point.
Cage Warriors is a good spot if you're to round out your game if you are going to in Europe. So he's in the right hands at the very least, and they don't pay so much that fighters don't want to leave either. So it's probably the perfect spot if you want to head to the UFC. All right, before we move on, Edge Boost. Let me tell you about Edge Boost. SGPN is partnered up with Edge Boost, the premier Visa debit card for bettors. The Edge Boost card allows you to avoid the hassle of having your card denied at sportsbook, DFS site, sweepstakes site, racetrack, or casino. Plus, you can earn up to $750 per month in cashback rewards for using your Edge Boost card. And you know your money is safe as the card is FDIC insured. The best part is no credit checks, and it's completely free. Sign up today and use the promo code SGPN so you get better cashback rewards and instant tier 2 status. And obviously, you're going to want to use that on Al Horford prop bets over at edgeboost.bet. Promo code SGPN. That's edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. And we are brought to you by MyBookie.ag. MyBookie is your place to bet every sport, plus props for every game in the live dealer casino. MyBookie accepts customers from a ton of locations, easy deposits, and lightning fast payouts. Obviously, you're going to want to check out the MMA lines there and Al Horford props bets. And who else are we in on now? We're in on Kyle Filipkowski as well. And Walker Kessler. Why not? He did good after I gave him a shout out. He had like 25 points the next game. So there you go. Head to mybookie.ag, promo code MMA SGPN for 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. That's mybookie.ag, promo code MMA SGPN. Let's get you some more Cage Warriors picks, shall we? If anyone's going to the event, hit us up. It'd be interesting to hear if we have any Italian fans that are going to watch Cage Warriors. I know we have plenty in Asia that send us events they're going to, but let's hear it for you Europeans. All right, we got an all-Italian battle next. Dylan Hazan, which does not sound Italian, he sounds American. Michelangelo Lupoli. That there, ladies and gentlemen, that is an Italian name. 3 5-minute rounds, 125. So it should be a fun one. I'll tell you about Lupoli first. True Love is the nickname. Oh, how sweet. 8-4 with 2 knockouts. He's been knocked out once, submitted once. 3-2 in Cage Warriors. He's won 2 straight. Before that, he lost 2 straight. He's a regional champ. He used to fight at 135. He's been around for a decade. 2015 was his pro MMA debut. Hazan is 10-2 with 6 knockouts. He's been knocked out once, submitted once, 5-2 in cage warriors. He's 1-2 over his last 3. Won his last fight, that'll be a TKO. He's a regional champ as well. I haven't got to say our special line yet. The whole episode, I'm not going to get to say it. He used to fight at 135 and 155, 2 inches height over Lupoli.
Yeah, I think Dylan Hazan is going to be a big favorite here. My guess is like the 350, 400 kind of range. I just mentioned Mastrogiacomo was a guy who they were trying to build their sort of Italian brand after. I think Dylan Hazan was that before his 2 recent losses. And not that he isn't still somebody they like to throw on cards, but he is a hyped prospect at flyweight, a guy who I probably thought was contender series bound before he took those kind of weird losses here. And the reason is because he's the opposite of what we've been talking about with a lot of these Italian prospects. He's a really great wrestler. And you almost don't expect it from Italians. And it's although I guess Bellandi is too. We're going to talk about Bellandi in a second. He's a good wrestler too. But a lot of these guys, lean on their striking a lot more heavily. He rushes forward. He hits with good combos. Like the stance switch kind of moves as he throws big bombs and works his way into a double leg takedown. I like all that stuff. And when you watch Lupoli, he's the worst kind of style to fight somebody like Aiden. He's in trouble. He's tentative on the feet. He backs up. He really likes counter striking. He's a big counter strike guy, clearly trying to draw out the strikes. You're not going to have to draw him out from Dylan Hazan. He's going to let him fly anyway. But by the time he's countering, I think he's just going to get taken down. And, to Lupoli's credit, his defense has always looked good when it comes to grappling. But the bottom line is he's never fought somebody like Hazan. It's a there are levels to these things moment with Lupoli, because I just don't think he's ready to defend a takedown against a guy like Hazan, especially not with the pressure he brings and the fact that he'll be on his heels. So Dylan Hazan, I'm guessing huge favorite. Maybe he's somebody you roll into a parlay with Mastrogiacomo. But yeah, I can't get away from Dylan Hazan on this one.
You just can't get enough of Dylan Hazan, eh?
I do really like him. Before he started dropping fights, I was all about, get this guy in contender series, get this guy on a season of The Ultimate Fighter. He dropped a couple of those, and I think, maybe that's still in his future. But just now he's going to have to work another year before he gets it.
Hey, there's worse things. It's actually a lot of times it's good for fighters to actually drop. You get the 0 out of the record before they hit the UFC. Then they don't have that pressure on them to stay perfect. So, all right, nothing but title fights the rest of the way through. Starting off with the Cage Warriors Middleweight Championship. Dario Bellandi from Italy. Naglis Kanišauskas. You can tell he's not from Italy because he's got os kiss at the end. He is from Lithuania, I believe, right?
Yeah, he's Lithuanian.
Yep. 5-minute rounds. Does it break her down? The challenger is the Smiling Boy, 8-3, and he's smiling in his picture. I can confirm. 8-3, 3 knockouts, 5 submissions. So he's finished everyone. He himself has never been finished. 3-2 in cage warriors. He's won 2 straight. Before that, he went 1-2. So 2-0, 3-2. Both of his past 2 wins have come via TKO. His last loss was to this very same man, Bellandi, July of 2023. Wasn't for a goal at the time. Kanišauskas. I'm having trouble saying that. Kanišauskas is a pro kickboxer as well. 4 years younger than Bellandi. Bellandi is a Neanderthal. 8-1, 3 knockouts, 2 submissions. Never been finished. 6-1 in cage warriors. He's the champ, and he's defended it once already. He's won 6 straight. He's not lost since December 2020.
So I think Bellandi is going to be a big favorite. They got an Italian defending their title in Italy. So I'm guessing negative 250 probably, plus 225 on the return, or plus 200 on the return for Kanišauskas. And I'm going to go with the Italian upset here. I'm going to go with the Lithuanian to take the title while in Rome. I know he lost the first fight, but I went back and rewatched it. I mean, the control early was all Kanišauskas. And this is kind of the thing about Bellandi, though, and why I've written him off a bunch of times, and he's burned me with a couple of, of his victories, is that he doesn't look good. And I don't mean that terrible, but there's nothing special. He's slow. He's plodding on his feet. His wrestling is all right, but not. It doesn't seem like something that's overwhelming. He's not a Habib presence with his wrestling, and you don't have to worry about all the other stats and things he does. So he's got this issue where he's slow on his feet and he doesn't really let go. And I'm not really impressed with what he's doing striking wise. And his wrestling's all right, but not great. But then he's just got this gas tank that overwhelms people late in fights. like Robin Roos in his last fight, who we'll talk about in a second on the lightning round, because I can't quit Robin Roos. 7-5, somehow got a title shot in Cage Warriors, beat the hell out of Bellandi in the first 2 rounds on the feet. I would argue he won the first 2 rounds against Bellandi, clearly lost the next 3 because he was exhausted from fighting Bellandi. And like similar kind of thing in Kanišauskas' first fight with Bellandi, like kicks to the body were there early for Kanišauskas. Kanišauskas actually wrestled Bellandi early because Kanišauskas' wrestling is, at least when he's at full stamina, when the energy bar is full, Kanišauskas might be a better wrestler than Bellandi. The question is just like, can he hang on for that for 5 rounds and win 3 of them? Because I don't think either of these guys are taking each other out. Bellandi is notoriously hard to finish. And in addition to that, like, that grinding style isn't really taking anybody out in his own right. So I really think Kanišauskas, it's got to be a heavy cardio game plan coming into this, where he is hopefully working on the fact that he's not going to gas out like he did last time. But like skill for skill, I think he's better than Bellandi. So it's hard for me to look at if he does post in the early 200s or even the high 100s. It's hard for me to look down on a fighter who I think is better in just about every way, just for the cardio of Bellandi. So I'm going to go with Kanišauskas.
All right, dog. We got a Lithuanian dog for you. All right, before we get to the main event and our late round picks, let me talk about Rhythm. Rhythm is throwing an epic March Madness party, and you're invited. All Rhythm users are invited to a first 4 watch party Wednesday, March the 19th at the awesome Stadium Swim at Circa Las Vegas. Free drinks, plus you get to hang out with these guys from the Sports Gambling Podcast and the College Experience. And it gets better. Rhythm is also giving away a $250 March Madness future for one random lucky Rhythm user. Even if you can't make the party, you can still win with the future bet. Just sign up for your 7-day free trial today at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM, and come by and use Rhythm to help you fill out your bracket and make some bets while you are there. Free party plus a chance at a $250 future bet. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/party. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/party for more details. Underdog Fantasy, NBA, NHL, college basketball, whatever your sport, you can cash in big with Underdog Fantasy Pick'em. Underdog is offering a Luka Doncic discount for every Lakers game for the rest of the regular season. Also, for football diehards, Pick'em projections for select players, 40-yard dash times during this week's NFL Combine. Gumby, you have a play about any of those things I mentioned or your own?
Yeah, we'll stick with NBA because I've been hot there lately. I'm going to take Carlo Mekovic over in New Orleans. They're playing the Jazz on Sunday, which is when you're getting this in your ears. So when you get to him on Sunday night, play the higher than on his rebounds. He's gone for at least 5 in 4 of his last 5 games, and he's dipped into double figures. So I'm loving Carlo Mekovic at this point.
It's always obscure people now with you. That's your thing, eh?
He's not obscure. He's dominating for I picked him up in fantasy. That's how good he's playing right now for New Orleans.
Obscure players on crap teams. That's Gummy's thing. Sign up. Actually, I know what your fantasy thing is. We won't talk about that though. Sign up with our code. Are you winning in fantasy this year?
Second place right now, currently.
Yeah, good job. Sign up with the code MMA SGPN to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code MMA SGPN. It's good. Gumby puts like restrictions on himself to make it more difficult, and he's still in second place. So.
Yeah, I have to handicap myself and play with only terrible players in order to let my friends have a chance. Yeah,
it's insane, and he's still in second place. All right, main event time. Cage Warriors of Bantamweight Championship. Liam Gittins from jolly old England. Alessandro Giordano. You can tell by the way I said his name incorrectly that he's from Italy. 5 5-minute rounds, 135. So double gold. Ending off these things. Middleweight and now the bantamweight. All right, the challenger, Giordano, is 9-3, 5 knockouts, 1 submission. He's never been finished in a fight. 3-2 in Cage Warriors. He has won 3 straight, though. Used to fight at 145, 2 inches of height, 4 years younger than Gittins. Gittins is nightmare. 13-4, 7 knockouts, 3 submissions. He's been knocked out twice. 10-4 in Cage Warriors. He's a champ. He's successfully defended his title once already. He's won 6 straight, including his last fight via submission. He's not lost since December 2021. Used to fight at 125 and 145. Let her rip.
Yeah, so I think Gittins is going to be a favorite as the champ and as a guy. I think a lot of people are hot on here, even though this is taking place in Rome. Giordano's getting home to the I'm still going to say like negative 250 for Gittins. And with that set up, I think, the big piece for me with Gittins is that he moves forward at such a good clip. I love the pressure from Gittins. I love the way that he backs people up and makes people work off of their heels. Giordano is a guy who has backed up quite a bit in his career. Like he has a little bit of trouble when people are moving forward and are kind of getting in his face. So I think Gittins is going to do that, first of all. Now, I do think Giordano is a little bit faster when it comes to the striking. I do think he's a little bit better of a striker than Gittins in terms of speed. I just think it's like quite a bit more predictable. And when somebody is backing you down and somebody is giving you trouble and somebody is getting in your face, that predictability can really cost you. So I'm going to lean Liam Gittins here. I think he should be able to be the better striker in terms of backing Giordano up. I also just think in general too, like I think I want to stay away from this line if it's in the mid to high 200s. Like I might be down with playing him at like, negative 150. If it dips down into negative 175, maybe the hometown bettors come in on Giordano and it lowers that number a little bit. But the bottom line is that like, I think as hard as Giordano throws, you don't want to be in on the favorite side on too big of a favorite here with Gittins. I do like the pressure. I think he probably wears Giordano out over 5 rounds. But that's just like a word of warning for people who are before they go all in on Gittins.
Here's a question. Actually, it applies to the co-main event as well. In feeder promotions such as this, you don't usually see guys with title defenses. Why do you think Gittins and Bellandi are still around Cage Warriors? UFC interested or what?
Cage Warriors mostly makes their fighters defend them once or twice before they go anywhere. You're right to a point on like LFA.
LFA's, yeah.
There's usually a title defense, maybe 1 or 2 before the UFC snatches you up. But with you got to remember with British cards, they go over to England so much less frequently, and it's a pain in the ass to use them as late replacement fighters. And, so you wind up seeing them defend 2 or 3 times. I mean, even Modestas Bukauskas defended in between his stints in the UFC. So, I imagine Gittins will defend once or twice here and then probably get the call in August for a Contender Series.
Do you think he's worthy? He's on the level?
Yeah, I do. I like I think the pressure is a big thing for him. I think the way he backs people up and forces people to fight on their heels, he's really exciting. So that's another thing. Like the UFC will probably be interested in him just based on like the energy he brings.
Yep. Not energy.
Not energy.
Different people. All right. There you go. Gumby has answers. He always has answers. Just give you a recap and then Gumby's got more plays for you. So don't you click us off yet. Gittins, Kanišauskas as hopefully a big dog. Hazan, Mastrogiacomo. I forgot to put your name there. There you go. You're locked in now. And Ntelis. All right, lightning round. Zap, bam, boom, pow.
So I mentioned before, can't quit Robin Roos. His record's 7-5, and he's fighting a hometown fighter. But I mean, I think the hands are good enough to beat a lot of people in this division. They were, giving Bellandi a little bit of trouble on the feet in the first couple of rounds of their fight. So, I think Robin Roos. That bad record might give you dog money on him, and it's definitely worth a play. And another one I like, and I've liked this guy pretty much every single time he's fought, is Orlando Prinz. He comes from a jiu-jitsu background despite being a Dutch fighter, which you don't see a lot of. He himself got to fight in a title fight somewhat recently and didn't look completely blown out of the water. He's fighting Harry Hardwick. So, we can cut him some slack on that one. But again, another guy with kind of a rough-looking record. I think he's 5-3 overall. But he is super exciting, good jiu-jitsu, and the hands have really come along. He started knocking people out recently, too. So I like Robin Roos and Orlando Prinz as my 2 lightning round picks.
All right. Thank you, Gumby, and thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We're going to come right back at you tomorrow with more regional fun. In the meantime, you can find us in Discord, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. If we're not there, someone else will be. You can check us out on YouTube, MMA Gambling Podcast. Make sure you subscribe there. On Twitter, SGPN MMA. He's at Gumby Vreeland. I'm at Jeff Fox Writer there and on Instagram. Check out my Substack, moneymma.substack.com. Check out Gumby's Top Total MMA podcast. Do you know who's on it this coming week, Gumby, or are we too early in the process?
I've got a couple in the can, but I'm trying to push them off a few weeks, so you'll just have to wait.
Stay tuned. It will be someone good, I guarantee, and very interesting. And of course, sportsgamblingpodcast.com, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. Remember the code MADNESS. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. And if you're going to sign up, please do. Underdogfantasy.com, mybookie.ag. Use our code MMASGPN. That way you get a discount and we get to to stay in your orifices. All right, we shall be back tomorrow with Octagon, one of our favorites. It'll be the Smiling Boy, Jeff Fox, the Neanderthal, Vreeland. We shall talk to you then.